Former Washington State head coach Nick Rolovich will be suing the university for illegal termination, in part because of, quote, discriminatory and vindictive behavior, unquote, by the athletic director, Pat Chun. An attorney representing Rolovich said on Wednesday. Washington State head coach Rolovich was fired along with 4 assistants on Monday night after refusing to comply with a mandate that required all state employees to be vaccinated against the COVID-19 disease. That came down after the governor put out an edict that all state employees needed to have the vaccine. So here we go. This is an interesting tidbit here. So the reason for all this happening is Washington State Athletic Director Chun on Monday said that Rolovich's firing is for cause separation, noting that he could not meet the requirements in his contract, which paid him $3 million annually. Therefore, he will not be continued to being paid. So that's what this is kind of about. Usually when a coach gets fired for, performance issues or whatever, they get fired, but they still get paid out most, if not all, of their contract. In this case, because technically Rolovich was in a breach of contract because he did not get the vaccine, he was fired and he will not be paid the rest of his money by the school. And this is a quote from Rolovich's lawyer who says, quote, "It's a tragic and damning commentary on our culture, and more specifically on Chun, that Coach Rolovich has been derided, demonized, and ultimately fired from his job merely for being a devout in this Catholic faith." Okay. So a lot to break down there. First of all, what do I make of this? So it's interesting because we're seeing this conversation kind of play out on a national level. We're seeing it play out, in different walks of life, not just sports, not just politics, but every single walk of life. And it's always interesting when this plays out, but here is what I will say. When you coach for an institution that is governed and owned and state run, that is publicly run, that the state of whichever state you're in has oversees, at the end of the day, you have to comply by their mandates as well. You have to comply by their edicts, their rules as well. And I feel like that's an understanding whenever you take a state position. Now, here's the thing with the vaccine and everything. So when Rolovich was fired, right, he was fired because of his breach of contract because he didn't get the vaccine, and that was a mandate for all state employees. And not technically, Rolovich was a state employee. And I think that's something you understand when you work for a state institution. So for me, the reason why he's doing this is because he's obviously not getting paid. I feel like if he was getting paid, it would be a different situation. But because he's not, obviously Rolovich wants to get that money back. And if I had to say who's in the right, who's in the wrong, I would say Rolovich should have probably known that this was coming. And honestly, he is in the wrong because the state had its laws, it had its rules, and Rolovich had to basically abide by them from the forefront. And let me be clear, the Washington State does have some exemptions here. There are some exemptions for people not to get the vaccine. That's for health reasons and et cetera. I don't believe that there is a religious exemption, so I guess Rolovich's Catholic faith did not apply to this. But my thing is just, it's very disappointing when I see things like this, that people are willing to get fired, then spend money on lawsuits, and, eventually probably lose lawsuits or come to a settlement that doesn't come near the amount of money they were supposed to be paid because of what I personally believe are stupid reasons. And I believe that not getting this vaccine and throwing away $3 million annually and not coaching a Washington State University, which is a big-time football program, D1 football program, it's silly if you're willing to throw that all away for a vaccine. especially when most people, even Catholics, I know a lot of Catholics who are vaccinated. Most of the Catholics I know actually are vaccinated, and trust me, I know a thing or two about Catholics, but I digress. Okay. But it is just silly to me that someone would throw all that away for a simple, effective, and honestly, in a lot of ways, life-saving treatment vaccine that takes a minute, if that, to actually not even a minute, a second to get into your body and actually helps you fight a pandemic that is ravaging the world right now, has been ravaging the world for over the past year and a half, and that we are just gaining some immunity to. It is always going to be silly to me personally. It is always going to be silly to me that these people are willing to throw away all this money, all this opportunity for what I deem to be not a big deal. Now, if that's your faith and that's what you believe in, then okay, I understand that, and that's fine. And things aren't perfect. And when governments and politics have to take these things into account, you're not supposed to take religion into account. It's separation of church and state, and I understand it can be frustrating sometimes, but them's the breaks. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.